Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. As always, this is where we gather every single day to help anyone and everyone who shows up to learn about modern web-based production. It's where you can submit your questions about media creation and distribution in all its forms. You can submit those 24/7 because we have not only our regular Makana system, but also a QR code system. And if I slip my mouse over to this side and hit this button, you should see the QR code pop up in the corner of the screen. You can use any device that'll read QR codes to shoot that, and it'll get you into the basic system. Also, if you come in through the regular show thing at officehours.global, the pathway there, you can actually participate a little bit more in terms of voting on the questions. And what we get to the quickest and what we talk to in the most details are the subjects that you vote up. So your votes do matter, and we hope that you will use that Mukana system to participate and vote on everything. If you're watching on any of the circumstances, we appreciate your being here, and it's time to dive into our first question for the day. So, Courtney, what's on anybody's minds?
Well, Omar Gadan from Orange County, California, asked the question. He says, I'll be recording and streaming a hybrid sales meeting. I will also be bringing in a couple of remote participants for Q&A. The company is Office 365 only org and no Zoom. Any Teams-specific tips or known Teams-related pitfalls to avoid?
Alex Lindsay is going to help you out. Alex?
One thing you may want to look at is an NDI output from Teams. I believe Teams supports NDI, and I believe it will not have, and I don't use Teams for productions, but this is my understanding with other people who do, there should be an NDI output, and that should allow you to get a debris-free image out of Teams to bring that person in. So take that into account. Also, just know that, inside of your production, the echo cancellation may not be successful, so make sure to test that heavily. You may need to do that in the mixer. So in your hardware mixer, the number one problem you have in a hybrid meeting when it comes to bringing people in, I think one of the number one, I don't know if it's number one, but top five, is echo. So if you're delaying the audio, or if the audio gets delayed at all coming into the system, the echo cancellation may not work, and just because of the nature of the way the room works. And so you really want to think about either doing that manually, or a lot of us will do things like use auto mixing, so like a Dugan auto mixer, and we push the mics on the room down when the person's speaking. When the person's speaking remotely, we push, when they're speaking, we push the remote down. When the remote's speaking, we push them down, and we have found that to be fairly effective. But it does take a little bit of work to get that to be just right. So those are the two big things. Little things are, what screen are you putting them on? It turns out if you put them on a big screen in front of people, if you're going to put them there, you can play around with eye lines and so on and so forth. And it's just a matter of, are the people that you're bringing in, are they participants if they're just participants for the Q&A, you're not going to have a lot of control. If they are actual VIPs, you may have a lot of control, and you want to start thinking about what their eye lines look like.
Hopefully, Omar, that gives you some ideas of methods to pursue. Thank you for the question. Next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Walhus in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And Paul asks, how would I mount a 98-inch TCL LED TV to a 6-foot wide hand crank Husky adjustable work table? I don't know if I want to just set it on the table with just the two pitiful feet that it comes with. He wants to solidly attach it to the table. Any ideas?
Okay, let's dive into it. Alex, you have those thoughts.
There are stands that are designed to do what you're doing, and you should use them. Do not get into some kind of crazy, I'm going to connect this monitor to if you're going to put it on a table, I guess that's okay. But really, with a 98-inch screen, there are big stands that are designed, and I would definitely get one that, depending on the weight, was capable of lifting it up and down with a hydraulics and not with a hand crank. But I would not try to figure out some way to attach this to a workbench. I would definitely attach it to a monitor stand.
Courtney Gooden is going to help too.
Yeah, that stand with the hydraulics is going to cost a lot more than that 98-inch TV did. But I would say if you want to get out on the cheap, which sounds like what he's trying to do is use this TV as a background virtual screen behind him. And so he wants to be able to adjust the height up and down as needed without expending, $4,000 on a stand. So you could use the wonky legs, but I would screw them to the table. If you can't drill holes in those feet, those legs, and put some wood screws or bolts, even better, through that Husky table and bolt it down, because you don't want that thing when you're cranking it up and down to have one leg fall off the side and have that thing fall over on you, or God forbid if you're in an earthquake, have it tip over onto the talent who's sitting in front of it a foot or so. So you could attach it. It's probably that Husky table is probably just particle board with a laminate top on it. Drill holes in it. Run some bolts through the legs so that it's not going to move off that table, even in an earthquake. And then you can crank it up and down, and you'll have a poor man's version.
Yeah, and make sure to let us know how that goes.
Do be careful. I think that's the main message we're sending to you. Next question.
The next one comes in from Craig Kadoki in Toronto, Canada. Has anyone looked into this RF scanner that can record scans over an entire day? Looks great for site surveys, and he has a link there.
Guy Cochran, do you have some experience with this?
Yeah, we stopped by the RF Venue booth at Infocom and talked at length with one of the gentlemen in the booth, and he had mentioned that the reason why they came up with this was to place it in advance of an event, so they could remote into this unit and they could see what's going on, so then they can become more prepared with what frequencies they may need to allocate or change some of the gear around. So it's more to save on, or in this example, is more to save on flight and hotel and things like that, because they can just drop it in there. And it is, it looks like this. It's just basically a small unit with a LAN port and then an RF input. And that's the gist of it. It's a pretty basic device, but yeah, it looks pretty cool for people that are in this line of work.
Alex?
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like something you typically use it doesn't look like this is built. Our RF Explorer is a really popular one for us to use on site surveys where you're going to wander around, because you're going to wander around and it's battery operated. And this one doesn't. This one really looks like it's, as Guy said, you send it and you leave it there. And a lot of times things change over time. So this has a logging feature. So it's recording everything that's happening over that period of time as well. And so I haven't seen this before, but it looks fantastic. And again, as I said, RF Explorer and other things like that are the ones that we typically use to walk around. But this one looks like a fantastic one to send and just leave at a venue, or have if you're or over a longer period of time. I guess I would say I wouldn't use it for site surveys, but I would use it. I'm definitely going to check it out. So it's cool.
Courtney.
Yeah, not a bad idea to record the spectrum over a 24-hour period, because when you go to a site and if you go there and just run your spectrum scanner right before the show and look at what's available, you may not realize it, but there's a dispatcher that comes on at 5 o'clock and he starts transmitting to all the remote trucks out in the field, et cetera, over some type of radio broadcast that, wasn't on when you did your site survey. So something that happens every day at a certain frequency and a certain time, you can see those spikes then and avoid those frequencies, because they'll probably happen again. So it's a good idea to sample the spectrum over time to watch out for those intermittent type transmissions.
Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Douglas Carmichael. He says, what's the best value multi-LLM service? Poe.com, U.com, Magi, and he has a link to magi.co.
Alex Lindsay, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that a federated solution, it definitely makes sense, because it allows you to kind of average out between all the services what their response is. I don't know which one of these is the most valuable. The one that's best known as Perplexity, but I think that these all look like they're doing similar things. I don't know enough about each one of them. I've mostly used ChatGPT, and I'm playing with Claude after our Monday event. So I think that those are the ones that I'm working on specifically. I think the hard part is for me, the reason I'm not using these in a regular way is because I find it easier to learn how the one that I'm working with works, and use its native functions and understand what I need to do to get something out of it. And having it federated for me is not as useful, because now I have to figure out a lot of different things all at the same time. And it's just harder to get. As I played with Perplexity, I found that I wasn't getting the same results that I was getting when I was working directly with the native apps. I just didn't feel like I was getting what I needed. So I do think that they're a good idea, and I see why they should work. They just haven't worked for me.
Let's go to the next question.
Another one coming in from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Paul Wallace says, is the Chris Titus tool the best way to debloat and manage Windows so it runs efficiently and has restore points? And he has a link to Chris Titus's tools for Windows.
Unfortunately, I'm not a Windows person, and I'm not sure we have anybody who's
Courtney,
been
have you
visited.
used
Oh,
this?
Courtney. Courtney will dive in on this. I was hoping I would see his name pop up.
I have
Courtney,
not
take it
used
away.
I have not used Chris Titus's tools. Lately, I've been using these versions of Windows that comes on these tiny computers, like the GMK Tech. There, it's like that. And these are a stripped down version of Windows Pro that runs pretty good. It's minus a lot of the bloatware, and it runs as a local account. So I haven't had to run these debloaters. Chris Titus has been known to create some good tools. So try it out. I'd try it out on a system that you've just installed or an older system that is super bloated and you want to clean it up and try and run it on that and see how well it does before you put it on your main system to see if it breaks anything. Because it could, when it's eliminating some of this stuff, it may eliminate some of the runtime packages that you may need to run other programs. So be careful when cleaning it up that you don't break something that's unique, like CloudStream.
Voice of experience.
Yes.
Next question.
Next, great. Anawahi Black Bear Marshall from Oihi says, using a Zoom Room product in the cloud for a multi-purpose room, can't find the settings switch for original sound, etc., either in the controller or on the back end. Am I missing something somewhere?
Alex Lindsay, help him out.
You are. So there is these are a group of settings that are in the web portal. So you need to go to the Zoom Rooms settings down by the devices category, and you can adjust those and turn them on and off there. So they're just not going to be in the Zoom Room itself. You need to go into the web portal and again into the Zoom Room settings down by devices category.
Hope that helps you. Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Dave Kaufman in Vancouver, British Columbia, working on stage last weekend at the Vancouver Folk Music Festival. I had to mic a clarinet. Tried an SM57, and the player recommended it be 6 inches away, pointing at the barrel, but the level was too low. And an SM58 sounded better. Any suggestions?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, use the SM58. That's my suggestion. Like with the mics, that's the best part of having a bunch of mics is that if the mic isn't, if one mic isn't working, you could replace it with another one, and that's what you did. And I think it was a perfect way to approach it. If the SM58 sounds better, use it.
Courtney?
Don't the 57 and 58 have the same capsule in them?
They do.
They shouldn't. It shouldn't be. It might have been that one.
Maybe
or
the
something
windscreen
else.
on the 57 was all mucked up or something, and the 58 had been washed recently.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have it. There shouldn't be a dramatic difference between them. No. But again, if one works and the other one doesn't, use the one that works. But I think that again, the SM58 and SM57 should not have a dramatic difference in sensitivity.
Yeah, they're both dynamic mics that put out a relatively low level. So I'm just wondering if it was the path if it was running through the board or something like that, maybe they had it trimmed oddly. But yeah, you wouldn't expect those two mics to be very different at all in my experience. Next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Wallace once again in Hot Springs. How do I add a Ubiquiti 24-port switch to a Dream Machine SE?
Guy Cochran, help him out.
Yeah, I happen to have one of those. I stuck a piece in between the two. It's called a switch aggregation. So when you look at mine, I have hooked up to the lower. This is where you would plug yours in. So you would get a cable that looks like this. It's called a DAC cable. And basically, you don't have to buy SFP modules. You just get one of these $26 cables. This is a 3-footer. You probably want a shorter one. And then you'll plug it into spot 11 there. And then you'll plug that into the 10 gig uplink port on your 24. So I have a 24 here, and that you could see on the far right is the SFP module. So I have that DAC cable plugged into there. So that's how you would do it. It's just a DAC cable into your Ubiquiti 10G port.
Paul, good luck. Next question.
Comes in from our panelist here, Jesse Kester in Glendale, says, I'm soliciting suggestions on noise reduction for Zoom calls and live streams. I would prefer a dedicated device in the audio chain, but software could work too. Bonus question, what kind of delay can I expect from the processing?
Alex is going to help you out. Alex?
Yeah, I strongly prefer it in the hardware, and the reason for that is that it gives me more control and it works everywhere. So if I jump into a Teams meeting or a Google Meet or Zoom or whatever, I know what I'm going to get. So I like to have, and that's why I like to have a hardware switcher as well, is because the way I look and sound going into something is the same all the time, and I'm not software dependent. So that's why I have so much hardware kind of sitting on the outside. I don't think that there's any delay in the sound devices. MixPre 3 part 2 that has noise assist in it. So I don't hear it at all. Like if it is, it's a millisecond, like 1 millisecond. So maybe. And they spent, obviously millions of dollars and lots of time and money to get it to have that performance. But that's, you shouldn't have any delay there other than the delay you add. I add a little bit of delay to work with it, to work into the system because it's a dual audio system. So I think that, but that's my preference. I will say that Zoom's, especially their personalized noise reduction, is stunningly good. Like it is. So it's not, we've been using it more and more for even remote participants coming into shows. Just because, there's a little bit of noise there, I can try to figure it out, or I just push this button, and it just really, they've obviously spent an enormous amount of resources getting that to work well. And I mean, I think Courtney's got a few high-speed blowers next to him, and he sounds fine. So I think, so you can get away more and more with the software, but I still prefer it to be hardware.
I've been shocked and surprised. I think Zoom has gotten incredibly better. What I'm surprised about is I'm using the Universal Audio Apollo Solo, and it's got the CVOX noise reduction plugin running on my voice. I do that because I record audiobooks and everything else at the same desk. So even when I'm not on the web, I prefer to have some kind of noise reduction just to kick down the little fans and things in the background. What has surprised me is even though my internal system is providing some noise reduction and then it's going out to Zoom, it doesn't seem to conflict with what they're doing. I would have thought that maybe getting a double hit like that one system noise reducing and altering the signal and then it going to another and that putting another layer of noise reduction on it might really cause transient clip off or other things that when noise reduction gets heavy is objectionable. I think Zoom's got this so right that they somehow kind of balance that out, and it apparently sounds pretty good all the way around. So I think that noise reduction has come a long way since the early days when I used to have to rent the hardware seaters. Courtney, you had some thoughts on this.
Just a tip or two. One is, make sure if you're using the Zoom noise reduction, it monitors your microphone input while you're muted. So if you Zoom mute your microphone, it's still hearing your microphone and it's establishing a image of the background sound so that when you do speak into that microphone or unmute Zoom, it can then remove what the background sound was before you unmuted. So, and it takes a second or so to acclimate itself if you mute the microphone, if you keep the hardware muted before it goes into your computer. That can be a problem because then you'll hear it clip or adjust every time it unmutes and every time it filters out the background, and then every time you speak, basically you'll hear little tails and things. And some people still say they hear little artifacts on mine because you're hearing my voice now that has subtracted everything that sounds like an air conditioner from my voice. So you're not hearing all those maleficent sounds of air conditioner in my voice.
Hopefully that helps. Next question.
Harold Williams from Portsmouth, Virginia says, can you recommend a couple of microphones for our organ Leslie speaker, high and low, that does not look like a vocal mic? Every now and then someone will take it and start praying or singing into it. I'm not making this up.
No, I think we've all been in that circumstance where someone sees a mic and grabs it and wants to do something with it. Alex, help
The hard
me out.
part is the mics that you typically use for that are actually mics that look like, so you could take them somewhere. The MD421 from Sennheiser and the SM57. And so those are the most common ones to use, and they look like something you could pick up and start talking to. My recommendation is a labeler that says, this is not a vocal mic. Just put it like every 90 degrees, like this is not a vocal mic, and you can do it white on black, so you won't see it off in the distance, but maybe you can get people to stop picking them up. Yeah, and the other thing is,
excuse me,
gaff tape. So just a little bit of gaff tape over top of it might make it very clear that they shouldn't grab onto it and try to move it.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I mean, you could use. I would suggest a dynamic microphone. The ones that are being used now, the Heils PR40s are good. You don't want one that's too sensitive to noise because you got the sound of that motor and the Leslie that's turning on if the bearings haven't been oiled lately, the spinning horns make a little bit of noise. You don't want to hear that when the organ's not playing, but the Leslie is turned on. So a dynamic mic positioned to just a foot and a half away would probably be well. And like I say, if it looks something like Tony Mobley's mic here, which is a PR40 in a shock mount, they'll be less likely to pick it up and sing into it. And put a little sign on that says "Do not touch."
There you go. Next question.
Paul Wallace in Hot Springs, Arkansas says, archery kicks off at the Olympics today. How would you set up video and audio to produce a spectacular archery production? And will NBC do that?
Alex.
In the past, they do a pretty good job. I mean, there's only so many ways to cover archery. So you're going to show close-ups of the person that's pulling it back. You're going to show over their shoulders so that you can see their target that you can zoom in on. You probably have a wide shot there as well. It looks like from the last one that they did. This is from I believe the 2022. You can see there's that close-up there. Here's the close-up. So you have a reverse shot. There's a side shot there. That's probably a close-up from that over the shoulder. You can see this over the shoulder here. So you can see when he fires. There's probably 6 or 7 cameras in there at least to capture that. I think that people underestimate, think about counting the cameras when you want to look at something. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. They were looking at a sport, and they were talking about, we'll take some stuff down there. And I was like, okay, you're going to need big lenses, big lenses. And there's all these angles. And the problem is archery is a little different because we don't see it very often. Most of us don't see it very often. If you do archery, you probably see it all the time. But if you're talking about baseball or football or soccer or other things like that, we know how we expect it to be shot. And so if fans are watching and you don't match that with those cameras, they will miss them pretty quickly. They don't know what they're missing. They just know that it doesn't look right.
Courtney Gooden.
And for the sound, I would put a shotgun microphone to get any sounds of the release of the release of the bow and the arrow. And I would put a contact microphone on all the targets so that you hear that nice thunk when it hits the target. Will add a lot more excitement. Maybe a stereo pair so you hear it travel through the air. Scares people at home listening on headphones.
Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, it used to be when cameras were a lot more expensive, you would plan something and say, okay, so camera 2 is going to get this, and then you also have the close-up and stuff. But they're so much less expensive, and you're dealing with Olympic budget. So I totally agree. I would have a camera on everything. And I would also consider a super slow-mo on the target close-up, on the off chance that you get that cool Robin Hood shot where they split the previous arrow.
Looking forward to that.
It happens. It happens.
I know. I've actually seen, you're totally right about that. I wonder if they'll ever get a camera on the arrow. Alex, your thoughts?
I actually think that slow motion, I thought where Chris was going with it, is arrows have this really cool motion when you fire them. So that while they look like they go straight, when you watch them in slow motion, they're like waving back and forth as they go through. And a really fast, camera would be able to capture that. That'd be kind of cool. The problem is, I think that it happens so quickly. It's hard to go back and look at that and replay it. So I think that would be the challenge. But Mickey said to start with a 10-figure budget, which is probably about right.
Just for archery?
For archery, yeah, just for archery. So, it is, that's the thing that is fun to watch about the Olympics is that they spent all the money. So if you're going to see a sport covered in the Summer Olympics, it's about as much money as you can spend on any sport that's going to be covered. This is as good as it's going to get.
I also want to mention, I recently came across a woman on YouTube who she says she shoots instinctively or something like that. And she draws her bow and then she drops it down. And as she's dropping it, she releases, which any archery person will tell you that's not what you do. But she's amazing. She's like throwing up cards. She'll shoot it into a bottle. I can't remember what her name was on YouTube, but oh my goodness, this woman was incredible.
There's a lot of lower brain processing going on there. She's got a big
and
lower
clearly
brain,
a lot of misses. I'm sure she's not showing us all the time she misses.
Yeah.
Editing.
Some people are so good at that. I remember seeing somebody on YouTube the young lady was doing a handstand and shooting arrows with her feet and hitting the target every single time. Human beings.
It's going to be in the Olympics next time.
That's right, handstand archery. Anyway, next question.
Great if you have eyes on your toes, Andy Kokendorfer from Vera, Florida asks the Elgato prompter for Zoom on Mac OS. Any thoughts from users? Does it show up as a virtual monitor thing?
Who do we have that's qualified to talk about teleprompter? Oh, Courtney Gooden, who's Emmy over his shoulders.
The Elgato prompter is a little bit different than most teleprompters in that it doesn't have a video input on it. It has a USB connection. And it uses the pluggable type drivers. So it shows up as a virtual video card in your operating system. So it's like you plugged an additional monitor into your computer. So it only works with a computer as a virtual video card. So then you can output whatever you want to onto that virtual screen. But you can't send it a video signal directly. It only can show up as a virtual monitor. And then anything that you slide over into that external screen will appear on that monitor. And I'm not sure how it's reversing the image. I guess it's doing it in the video driver for that pluggable monitor.
Guy Cochran, thoughts?
Yeah, on the Mac, it's a display link, so it shows up as any other monitor would. So in Zoom, you would just say use dual displays, and then anything you want to drag over there, you can drag over there. But you do have to install that display link software, otherwise it won't see it. On a PC, it's native, and it just works.
Chris Fenwick.
I'm using one. I bought one a couple, weeks ago, months ago, whatever. It's great. It's great. And it's interesting, Courtney, your comment of, would you say it doesn't accept a video input? Totally valid for old guys. But I tell you, in a modern world, people don't care about that. They just want to, people are sitting on their computers. I will say that there is a video I highly recommend you watch. It's from a company called Live Streaming Pros, and it's called How to Set Up Your Elgato Prompter or whatever. Absolutely have to watch it. There are some quirky things with the Mac OS. The typical thing is people set it all up and they fire it up and it goes blue for a second, then it goes to black and you're lost. So there is a utility you have to launch. It probably installs the display link drivers. And it has its own built-in prompter software that is absolute garbage. Don't ever try and use it. It's phenomenally bad. The only one that's worse is the prompter software that's in the Blackmagic Shuttle thing. Also, possibly shouldn't even be a product. But anyway, the prompter works fine. I will say, for this, I just put because we're in a Zoom meeting to broadcast this to you, I just put the active speaker window, dual display, whatever on here. So I'm looking at Bill now. But when people show screens, it's too small. It's definitely too small. So if I have to examine a screen in detail, I got to drag it to another window. But other than that, it's the simplest way to get a prompter for a Zoom meeting. It's awesome.
And Courtney, we're going back to.
Yeah, if you're just using it for eye contact for a Zoom meeting, yeah, like Chris says, it's perfect for that. If you're trying to actually run a teleprompter where you're running text on the screen, and a lot of YouTubers do this with a similar size product or that product, you've got to run your own. You've got to run your own teleprompter. You've got to control the speed yourself. So if you're going to be walking around or doing something like that, it can be difficult to do that. If you're going to have a prompter operator running it for you, they're going to be it's going to be hard for them because they won't be able to see the text. It only appears on that monitor that's reversed and showing in the mirror. So for them to follow along and scroll along with you, it's going to be almost impossible. You'd have to replace that monitor in the Elgato monitor with a real monitor so that you can have two displays out that are the same so that you can follow along. I guess you could use it in mirror mode and run it on your laptop monitor. That'd be one way to do it, I guess. But then you have to take over your screen with the prompter display.
As always, that question comes through our question system. We encourage you to use it whenever you want to. Here's the QR code for those of you who might have missed it at the top of the show. If you'd like to put your questions in, you can do that 24/7. You can use this or the regular Mukana system to put your questions in, and then we'll get them through the course of the run of the show. Next question.
Next question comes from Tlaloc Lopez Waterman in Brevard, North Carolina. He says, for folks like Tony using an iPhone for their main camera in the studio, has the Blackmagic app gotten any better option for remote control?
And Tony Mobley is here to answer. Tony?
Okay, so the truth is that I am about 2 weeks removed from using the Blackmagic camera app. The last time I used it, it did not have a clean out for me, so I did not use it. Now, that may have changed, but I'm currently using the Shoot app by Michael Forrest, and I can show you probably can't see this very well, but the controls are very accessible, and they work extremely well. Very excited. I've also been playing with the Final Cut Pro app as well, and camera app, and it does not have a clean out as well. So for right now, Shoot is the answer.
Excellent. Alex?
Yeah, you should be able to get, Shoot is a great app. So if Shoot's working for you, you should keep on using it. The Blackmagic can definitely do a clean output. What you're looking for is in your settings under monitor, it's about 5 or 6 down or 6 or 7 down. There's a HDMI out and video feed. It just needs to be set. You set it to video feed, and then you also set it to clean feed, and you should get a clean HDMI output. You still can't control it remotely, but again, I think this is exactly what Shoot is designed for. So I would recommend keep on using Shoot for what you're using it for. The Blackmagic camera is a recording device, like that gives you a lot of tools. I don't know if I'd use it for a live camera.
Courtney Gooden.
And for those of you in the Android world, be it known that, as previously the Blackmagic's camera app was only on iOS, it now has an Android version. So you can try it out. It works with a few number of phones, mainly the Google Pixels, the most recent versions, the 6 through the 8. And some of the Samsung flagship phones it works with on Android. So if you've been wanting to try it out and you have an Android phone that's among those classes, give it a try because it's now available for the rest of us.
Next question.
Coming in from Ryan Thomason in Houston, Texas. He says, $76 billion over 11 years. This is what NBC, Disney, Amazon are paying for the NBA and women's NBA. Is this a viable model? Will we get new tech for broadcast out of this? And he has a link there to the deal.
Jesse Kester's going to start us off here.
Now, just to be clear, this is a deal for broadcast rights. They didn't buy the NBA and the WNBA. So $76 billion over 11 years comes out to about $10 billion a year, and it's not it's viable. I would say it's probably viable if you keep in mind the fact that Disney isn't looking to compete; they're looking to, I believe, run more of a monopoly. So owning all the broadcast rights for the NBA and WNBA is a pretty good business model in that regard. They are going to be broadcasting an unprecedented number of WNBA games. That is 40 is the count of games they'll be playing over the year. And something to keep in mind with a deal like this is think about that $10 million today is more expensive than $10 million in 2035. So as this deal goes on year by year, and that number 10 billion stays the same every year, a decade later, 10 billion is a lot cheaper for those broadcast rights than they are today.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, and I think it's split between Disney, NBC, and Amazon. So there's three different companies that are splitting that up. So you have the $7.5 billion a year, then you split that out among two or three companies. It's only a couple $1 billion a year. I know it's a billion here, billion there. It starts adding up to real money. But the main thing is that sports right now is one of the only thing that's viable. It's one of the only bankable pieces of content right now are sports now, and most likely, and NBA has done a really great job over the last couple decades of really building up that brand, and so this is the result of that. And WNBA right now is about it's as popular as it's ever been. Thanks to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. so they the two of them have brought it to a different level of popularity, at least. So I think that it's the fact that I know their names, which is a good sign of that. Is not something that I knew before, but you see the highlights all the time. And so I think that they're doing they've done a great job. Again, this is one of the few, sports in general is one of the few bankable items that you can have in content in broadcast for the next decade.
Jesse Kester, you want to come back in?
And I think the WNBA thing is like when Lucas asked for merchandising rights on Star Wars. I think in 10 years, WNBA is they're gonna it'll be revealed that they got a really good deal on that. I think the popularity is just going to be kind of like a hockey stick over the next 10 years.
Yeah, back when I worked in advertising, one of the holy grails was to get your brands into people's minds when they're young. The NBA has always done that. The young men out on basketball courts, with dreams of being a superstar basketball player are legion. Now the young women, with the examples that Alex was just mentioning, are feeling the same. So they know that they're going to get a cross-cultural section of young people coming in, and for branding folks, that's catnip. Get there early and then establish life patterns. Courtney, you wanted to get in on this.
Yeah, I was just wondering if this deal specifically covers streaming or if it covers network broadcast as well, with NBC, Universal being in there, and Disney, of course, owning ABC. I don't know how they're going to split that up. Or is this just only for the streaming rights to those games that are carried on a separate deal for NBC broadcast? Or is this just Peacock streaming? That would be curious to know whether that.
It's probably a wide mixture. Amazon's obviously streaming it. And so Amazon has been kind of going in and getting exclusives on specific games. Thursday Night Football, for instance, is all Amazon.
It's going to confuse the heck out of everybody.
Yeah. I think people got confused by it, but then they ended up, the funny thing is the Amazon games look so good. Like you get kind of over whatever you were complaining about when you see the level of production quality on Thursday Night Football. It's oftentimes better than pretty much anything else on covering football right now. So because they're not constrained by broadcast limitations, you'll see this at this. I was just talking again to somebody yesterday about this, that broadcast is falling behind streaming. So streaming now doesn't have to deal with 1080i transport or, any of the old fashioned stuff that's there. And so you're starting to see much higher resolution streams that are going out. And, I think that you're going to start to see them break frame rate as well. There's a lot of developments around high frame rate solutions. And so as that kind of goes down the path, I think that the biggest problem they have is not so much what the content is that whether people want to keep on looking at it through a traditional broadcast pipeline, because it just can't keep up.
And because of the quality, who provides does NBA provide the capture side, the trucks that roll, or is it?
No.
And then how do they split that up between NBC, Disney, and Amazon? Is it Amazon games you say look so much better?
It's a different team. Different team, different trucks.
Different team, different trucks. But so those that are streamed on Amazon are not streamed on Disney and NBC?
That's right. Well, I don't know how this deal works, but I can tell you that for the NFL, Disney is, or NFL, it's when the Thursday Night Football is only on Amazon, which hasn't had the same impact.
Pick a night, you get Monday Night Football, you get Thursday Night Football, and you get weekend football.
And they took Monday Night Football and ESPN, Disney and ESPN made a mess of it. Because they took it off of the main ABC broadcast, and so it's only on ESPN, and so then people didn't. It kind of lost its whatever. I will say that you get to see what they experiment with when they start having more channels. So like the Manning brothers are doing their commentary during Monday Night Football, which is the best. Like, it's so cool to watch those guys. They're slowly getting rid of all the stupid TV stuff. I mean, they started and it was just the dumbest show ever. And every season they slowly get rid of all the stupid stuff. And it's just two quarterbacks talking inside football while you're watching the game. And that's all you really want to see. It's a great show when they don't do the silly things that they put in it. So hopefully they'll continue to go down that path. But every year it's a little less of that and a little more of just the Manning brothers talking, just two brothers who happen to be some of the best quarterbacks ever, talking to you about like where they're throwing the over the shoulders, like Tony Romo on steroids, it's really a great show. So it's fun to see. I'm hoping we see more streaming because then we see more experimentation and less, dumb broadcast ideas.
Next question.
Was Tony Romo on steroids? People want to know. All right, Guy.
It wasn't.
We are not suggesting anything.
It wasn't working.
He was just making an accusation, Tony. Hey, it's no truth to that.
We're just a little show having fun. Please, no lawsuits.
All right.
Next
Is this a Guy Cochran? Because this is from Guy Cochran here on the panel in Seattle. He says, "Is there storage inside an ATEM Mini Extreme?"
Is this an example of a Cochran? Jesse Kester's going to get in the way. Here goes.
I'm
Jesse.
feeling like this is a trick question because it should be a Cochran that you're throwing right now.
There's just there's a lot of defense. We double teamed him, so that Guy threw out for a Cochran, and Jesse and Alex are covering him tight.
It's an interception.
Time for a screen pass. Let's go to Jesse.
If you're asking like if there's a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte model that you can record internally, I believe no, there is not. But there's some internal storage to handle the software, the firmware, all that stuff.
Alex.
Yeah, we really wish there was. So maybe Guy has some new information, but it would be great to be able to play out or have lots of play out there. I mean, of course, there's no storage inside. Of course, you can attach it to the USB-Cs that are there, but there's nothing that is built in. We would love to see an NVMe slot or some kind of slot at the bottom that would let us do that.
Guy Cochran, it was your question.
Yeah. When the new update, there was a little tab that said storage. And so a lot of people just started thinking, hey, is there something inside? And so I grabbed my handy dandy T10 and opened it up. That's what it looks like inside. But there is nothing. So I took it all completely apart, tore it completely down, looked everywhere, every little piece inside, took off the ribbon cables and took it all apart. Put it back together. Doesn't have anything in there that you could put a little NVMe into. I was hoping.
So it was all
there
just
was hope.
a tease.
So I voided my warranty, but
I
for the good of the cause.
There's probably a second hour there before IBC just to make sure that we like wish lists for the ATEMs. But my definitely internal memory for the ATEMs would definitely be really high on my wish list, along with balanced audio inputs for the minis. Whether it's the Mini or Mini, at least the Mini Extreme or anything that says Pro on it should say.
Oh, come on. You secretly love 3.5 millimeter connectors.
Oh, so sad. So sad.
All right. Next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Wallace in Hot Springs, Arkansas. He says, on Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott was giddy over Microsoft Designer being for free and talked about it becoming his main design tool. Is that great with the AI and all? And has anyone tried it yet?
Courtney, you raised your hand on this one. Did you have some thoughts?
Well, yes, I have, because Copilot is Microsoft's version of an AI chatbot or a multifunctional AI tool. It'll accept images in. You can have it generate images. It uses DALL-E 3 as its generative AI for pictures. and it has voice input and voice output if you want. But if you tell Copilot to generate a picture and you have an unpaid Copilot account, all you have to have is a Microsoft account. It will throw you into Designer, which is their app that runs on Windows. That is basically an AI creation tool, and then it lets you add things, change dimensions, subtract things. And it does have some, and I haven't learned completely how to use it yet, because as you run your mouse over a generative AI image that you've created, like a Midjourney image, let's say, as you run your mouse over it, highlights certain things in the image, like it'll highlight a person in the image that it's created, or a thing in the background, or a cloud, or a ship, or something on the horizon. I'm not sure what the tools are that once you can highlight it, what you can do with that highlight, like say remove that or click on it. I haven't found out I haven't read all the instructions yet, but it is free with anyone with a Windows account. And so it doesn't take a paid Copilot account to use it for generative AI. So it's a free way to get your feet wet. And there are limitations to it. I think, I'm not sure what you can look at their terms of service to see you're limited to so many generations per day. So look at that. You can't go creating 12,000 images on it, but it is for free, and it's like a little paint tool, or a stripped down version of Photoshop with no layers that you can play around with AI generated images and clean them up.
Alex Lindsay.
Like all the other ones, I mean, if you're not using Midjourney, it looks great. So if you are using Midjourney, you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's cute. So, and a lot of us are terrified of, I mean, if you're not in the entire Microsoft ecosystem, a lot of us, the way that they tie their login into lots of apps and so on and so forth, many of us will avoid logging into Microsoft unless we absolutely have to, because it just causes so much damage. And so if you put it into anything other than the one thing that you need it for, if you're not in that ecosystem and you're just going in and out, it is brutal. Like when I see people do like, hey, we're going to do an event, and I go, oh, maybe I'll go. And then I see it's all going to be in like Microsoft Teams or whatever. I'm like, whoa. Like I can't sign into that, so it's really a problem. Their whole login infrastructure works for corporate and doesn't work for anybody else.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. He says, he has a large link there.
Just skip that.
Let's just skip that link. Where does it say? Audinate is providing webinars for cloud-based production with Dante Connect. Is anyone already using this in their workflow? And what could this provide for production?
Alex Lindsay.
Number one is I think that we're going to bring the folks from Audinate on. We'd like to say hi to them. They listen to the show a lot, so we would. But I think that it's really exciting to be able to now start to be able to have Dante transport in the cloud, and so it's definitely something that we hope to be experimenting with the stuff that we're doing with Vector. So stay tuned for more of that. But being able to do these transports and using Dante to do that it's been a big limitation not to have that, because a lot of us use it in most of our other productions. So when we look at using things like Llama or other tools, on Hertz is another one that we're looking at. Being able to do all the audio processing over there is great, but we still have to get it back. And so this could be a great tool for that, and we're planning to test it.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Tlaloc Lopez Waterman in Brevard, North Carolina. He says, how have you found DaVinci Resolve's transcription and titles feature? I've used it to work with already generated captions, but have yet to create them from scratch.
Jesse Kester is going to help us out here. Jesse?
So we use the auto-generated captions in DaVinci Resolve all the time, and there are goods and bads. The good is that it seems very context sensitive. So if it seems to take an umbrella view of the video, and if it knows that if we're doing a video in Little Tokyo, then it is more likely to get Japanese words like ramen and tempura correct than if we were doing a video that isn't related to something related to Japan. Where it kind of falls short is where every auto-generated subtitling feature has fallen short in our experience, and that is that the line breaks don't feel natural. They don't read well. Like, you want to break at the subject and the predicate, or the period, or after a comma from the first line to the second line of subtitles. And every model that we've used has been very insensitive to the flow of reading, and we're hoping against hope that that improves over the next, couple generations of this software.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I've had similar issues. We've tried it, thrown some stuff at it to see how it works, and we've kind of been left with, well, it's a work in progress. So I haven't found it to be something that I would use in production yet. It's definitely something that I'm experimenting with, and I'll open it up and have it try to generate those transcriptions. But most of the time, they just haven't been good enough where I didn't feel like I was going to have to hand fix enough of it that it would be worth using.
Next question.
Next question comes in from Douglas Carmichael. He says, Full Sail recently installed SSL Origin and Big 6 consoles to help teach audio concepts. In a digital and networked era, are analog consoles still effective as teaching tools? And he has a link to Big 6.
Alex Lindsay.
Well, there's a couple things there. One is, I absolutely do think they are. They're a great way for you to understand a lot of these concepts, and it's great. And so I think that being able to understand those, you may want to go to some more digital tools at some point, but being able to use an analog will help you understand. It's a little easier to understand the concepts that you're working inside of an analog board, because it's a lot simpler than a digital console, or many of them are. The other thing is that if you go into a recording studio, you're still going up against SSLs or something that are popular in a lot of recording studios, along with other boards. And so understanding how they work and being comfortable with them is a really important part of what Full Sail should be teaching you how to do, is how to sit down and be part of that. Understand how to use that. They're not really, you can get a digital console on your own and learn how to use it. They need to be able to provide you with tools and familiarity with tools that you can't afford. So I think that it's important for them to be able to build these big boards. And again, as Mickey said, and as I said before, understanding the basics of signal flow is really, really valuable in an analog board.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, and it teaches you about gain staging, where you can hear analog distortion, which sounds completely different than digital distortion. A lot of people think it's more pleasing, much more pleasing, digital distortion. So gain staging is an important tool to teach in an analog board. And it also lets you teach people about noise removal and the self-noise generated by analog components. So, yeah.
Next question.
From Gabriela Exajo, sorry, I should have read this in advance, Mistria from Sault Ste. Marie. We have 2 monitors at the school studio that have refused to turn on after adding an OG Blackmagic bidirectional converter in the signal chain from an ATEM Extreme ISO HDMI out to monitor screen. What am I missing? Thanks.
And Alex is going to help you out. Alex?
Yeah, my guess is some kind of EDID problem. So the issue is that the bidirectional is not really designed. That bidirectional is really designed to connect to a camera. So the way that bidirectional works is that it is really, you could use it for a monitor, maybe, but really what it's designed to do is it's designed to connect to a Blackmagic camera, so that the reason it's bidirectional is so that you can send command signals from a switcher via SDI or vice versa, or through the HDMI, and it's not doing the handshake properly. What you're looking for is a true SDI to HDMI converter, which is like a $50 converter from Blackmagic. I don't think the bidirectionals will work consistently, and so I think that you want to use you're going to want to use a pure SDI to HDMI, and there's lots of little ones also that you can buy for, again, $30 to $50. There's a host of them on Amazon that will work well.
Next question.
From Raj Chandil in Los Angeles, California, says, what company is the audio equivalent of video, in other words, Blackmagic Design?
So philosophical question. Jesse Kester, start us out here.
I don't know if there is a company quite like Blackmagic. They're a very unique company in that they control a signal path from origin to delivery and destination. And along that path, there's a lot of custom software and hardware. Like they have their own codecs for the video cameras that they have. I don't know that there even would be a need for an audio company that has a control of signal and their own bespoke codecs that only they can have access to from start to end of signal path, because audio is kind of simpler. And I don't mean to offend any audio experts who are watching the show, but the process of storing and delivering audio is inherently simpler than video. The closest I can think of in the hardware side is something like Zoom. They make affordable versions of high-end professional gear for people who are at their professional stage of their career, and that feels analogous to the Pocket Cinema series.
Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Zoom, as far as audio goes, Blackmagic offers a range of products from entry level, like the ATEM Minis that are $300 conveniently priced for any entry level video novice, all the way up to professional Constellation boards that are quite pricey that could be used for professional broadcast rather than just your independent YouTube streaming. And Zoom does the same thing. They have professional recorders that can be used in professional recording that are more expensive, that have time code, and they're designed more for the professional and better preamps. And then they have down to their consumer level of amplifiers, boards, and recorders that are handy to take in the field, so that people just getting starting in the industry can buy their way into a cheap but useful audio recorder and audio mixer and our audio interface. So Zoom, I think, is probably the equivalent to Blackmagic in the video field for the audio field.
And Alex?
I think if I was going to guess, I'd say Behringer. Behringer has this kind of a similar scale to, I think Zoom has a lot of intro tools, but Behringer also has a lot of those tools. And Behringer has a much larger scale of what they're covering, which is probably closer to the scale of Blackmagic than what Zoom's doing. So that'd be my guess.
Let's see if we get one more question. Next question.
Okay. David Brady from New York City says, I've started consuming Office Hours via Apple TV, and the live feed normally bubbles up to the top. Today, not so much. And I've had to nav to the channel to find it. Not the end of the earth, but any workarounds?
Alex Lindsay, help him out.
I think that if you are subscribing, which you should, everyone watching here should, and you are liking every one of the videos, which everyone here watching should, like and subscribe, they should always bubble up, but I don't know why it wouldn't otherwise.
Just reminding you, after the show today, the Isadora Lab with Elwilson Spiro, at 10 a.m. Pacific, and then a half an hour after, right as that ends, Oliver Breidenbach will be here with his MIMO Live Lab. So if you're interested in learning about those technologies, today is your day. Friday, tomorrow, we have an amazing show. This is kind of our special NDI super panel. NDI is a technology that is very, very popular, and a lot of people are kind of looking to learn more about it. Well, if you're in that category, today is your day. We have assembled a panel of NDI experts, knowledgeable in a whole range of production and development fields. Robert Musso, who is the Technical Product Marketing Director at NDI, is going to be here tomorrow. Lenny Nelson, the studio lead at the VizRT Group. Elias Perman, Jeff Keithley, Chief Problem Solver at Pizzazz. He's an old favorite of ours. Oliver Breidenbach himself, the CEO of Boink Software, is going to be here for tomorrow's show, along with Fintan McKernan, a systems integrator. So it's going to be a really unusual brain trust with a lot of people here who can really help you dig into NDI. And of all the initialisms I've heard over the course of the years about things that I keep thinking to myself, I really need to learn more about that because it's an oncoming process. Today or tomorrow is going to be your day. It's going to be an exciting day on Office Hours, and we really appreciate your participation in the show. So those are some of the things coming up. Don't forget the regulars here at Office Hours. We want to make sure that you know that we're here every single day, 7 days a week. We've been doing it for over 1,500 shows, and every single show is driven by your questions and your curiosity. You put those questions in. Everybody who's involved in the system gets to vote them up or down, and we spend the most time talking about the subjects that are most important to you by virtue of your votes every day. So you really do participate and make a big difference in how this show runs. And don't forget, on the weekends, coming up Saturday and Sunday, we have a more kind of laid-back philosophical approach to things. So if you have questions about how the show itself runs or how you can be involved, stop by on a Saturday or Sunday and watch us test out some new technology and be a part of the show. We'll be right back.